Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something very simple yet profoundly important. Is your marriage worth fighting for? Think about that. Right now, in this moment, ask yourself, when the challenges pile up, when communication breaks down, when frustration and doubt creep in, do you see a life together that's worth the fight? Every relationship, no matter how strong it seems, eventually reaches a critical crossroads, a moment where the future of the partnership hangs in the balance. At these pivotal points, the outcome is rarely dictated by circumstances or luck. It is determined by conscious choice, the power to decide whether to fight for a marriage, to invest in its growth, or to walk away entirely rests within each partner. This power is both liberating and daunting because it requires absolute honesty with oneself, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and the courage to take responsibility for one's role in the relationship. Choosing to fight for a marriage is not a passive act. It is an active decision that demands reflection, discernment, and commitment. It requires the recognition that relationships are not perfect by default. They require attention, energy, and an unwavering commitment to growth. Too often, couples wait for problems to resolve themselves or hope that feelings of love alone will sustain the bond. But love without action is fragile. It is the conscious choice to invest time, energy, and emotion into the relationship that determines whether it will flourish. At the same time, choosing to fight for a marriage is also about prioritizing the connection over ego, pride, and fear. It means looking past the daily irritations, past the disagreements and misunderstandings, and asking yourself whether the bond you share is worth the effort to repair, nurture, and deepen. It requires evaluating not just the current state of the relationship, but the potential for what it can become. The power of choice also involves acknowledging the responsibility each partner holds in shaping the trajectory of the marriage. It is not solely about what the other person does or fails to do. It is about recognizing the impact of your actions, communication, and emotional presence. Making the choice to fight for your relationship is an act of empowerment. It is the realization that you are not a passive observer in your marriage, but an active participant with the capacity to influence its course. In this sense, the crossroads is not a moment of helplessness, but a moment of opportunity, a chance to step into the role of co-creator in your partnership, to consciously decide whether to let challenges define you or to use them as a catalyst for growth, transformation, and deeper intimacy. The decision to fight is ultimately a reflection of values, priorities, and the vision you hold for your life together, and it requires both clarity and courage to embrace the responsibility that comes with it. True connection in a relationship goes far beyond fleeting emotions or surface-level affection. It is the foundation upon which lasting love, trust, and partnership are built. Many couples mistakenly equate love with attraction or comfort, believing that feelings alone are enough to sustain a marriage, but genuine connection requires consistent effort, emotional presence, and a deep understanding of one another. It involves seeing your partner fully, not just who they are in moments of happiness or ease, but also who they are in times of struggle, frustration, or vulnerability. Understanding true connection means recognizing that love is not passive. It is an active, dynamic force that grows when nurtured with attention, respect, and intention. Emotional intimacy is at the heart of this connection. It is the ability to communicate honestly and openly, to share fears, desires, and dreams without fear of judgment, and to listen with empathy and presence. Couples who cultivate this kind of intimacy create a bond that withstands challenges because they are able to navigate disagreements, misunderstandings, and external pressures without losing the sense of safety and trust in the relationship. Connection also requires a shared vision and aligned values. A marriage thrives when both partners are moving in the same direction, supporting each other's goals, and fostering a sense of partnership where individual growth is celebrated alongside collective growth. Without this shared understanding, even love-filled relationships can feel disjointed or disconnected, as though two people are moving through life together but not truly in sync. Beyond communication and shared vision, true connection is expressed through daily actions, gestures, and choices that reinforce commitment and care. It is in the small, consistent efforts, listening when your partner needs to be heard, offering support without being asked, prioritizing time together, and showing appreciation, that the strength of the relationship is measured. Understanding true connection also involves recognizing the patterns that either support or weaken the bond. Awareness of how habits, expectations, and unspoken assumptions affect your interactions allows couples to break cycles that hinder intimacy and to intentionally cultivate behaviors that foster closeness. It is about creating an environment in which both partners feel valued, seen, and understood, where love is expressed not only through words, but through meaningful, consistent actions. Connection is not merely a feeling that happens spontaneously. It is a choice and a practice that requires presence, attention, and a willingness to meet each other in both joy and difficulty. When couples embrace this understanding, they can transform their relationship from one that exists out of convenience or routine into a deeply fulfilling partnership, one that provides support, inspiration, and a sense of belonging even in the midst of life's inevitable challenges. Many relationships struggle not because love is absent, but because couples fall into repetitive patterns that slowly erode connection, trust, and intimacy. These patterns are often subtle, almost invisible at first, but over time, they create barriers that prevent authentic communication and understanding. People tend to repeat behaviors learned in childhood, influenced by family dynamics, past relationships, and societal expectations, and they often enter marriage carrying unresolved emotional baggage. Without awareness, these patterns shape interactions in ways that create frustration, resentment, and distance. Miscommunication is one of the most common manifestations of limiting patterns. Couples frequently assume that their partner should know what they need or feel, yet expectations go unspoken and misunderstandings multiply. Small disagreements left unchecked can escalate into cycles of blame and defensiveness, reinforcing the same negative loop over and over. These patterns often mask deeper fears, such as the fear of rejection, abandonment, or vulnerability. When fear drives behavior, people react emotionally rather than respond consciously, resulting in arguments, withdrawal, or avoidance, rather than collaboration and empathy. Recognizing and breaking these cycles requires self-awareness, emotional regulation, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It means examining not only your partner's behavior, but also your own role in perpetuating the dynamic. Change is possible when both partners commit to understanding the triggers and responses that fuel conflict, and when they consciously choose new ways of interacting that support connection rather than separation. Another factor is the accumulation of unspoken expectations and assumptions. Over time, couples may take each other for granted, assuming that love, effort, and understanding are automatic rather than earned continuously. These assumptions create invisible walls where partners stop investing consciously in each other, leading to stagnation or emotional distance. Limiting patterns are not insurmountable, but they require recognition, honesty, and effort to transform. Techniques such as active listening, vulnerability, and empathetic communication can interrupt the negative cycles and create space for deeper understanding. Couples who successfully break these patterns discover that challenges become opportunities for growth, insight, and strengthened intimacy rather than sources of persistent conflict. It is not enough to simply wish for things to change. Transformation demands awareness, intentionality, and consistent action. By identifying the recurring behaviors that undermine connection, addressing underlying fears, and cultivating new habits that foster understanding and trust, couples can overcome patterns that once seemed unchangeable, replacing them with ways of relating that encourage closeness, resilience, and lasting partnership. Recognizing the impact of these limiting patterns is the first step toward consciously shaping a marriage in which both partners feel heard, valued, and empowered to grow together in harmony and strength. Facing the raw truths of a marriage requires a level of emotional courage that many people underestimate. It is far easier to avoid difficult conversations, suppress feelings, or ignore conflicts, but true transformation in a relationship comes from confronting reality with honesty and vulnerability. Emotional courage means being willing to look at your own contributions to the challenges in the marriage, acknowledging mistakes, and admitting fears without shame. It requires the strength to face uncomfortable emotions, anger, disappointment, hurt, or resentment, and to express them in a way that fosters understanding rather than blame. Too often, couples avoid this work because it feels risky. They fear rejection, escalation of conflict, or the potential of being misunderstood. Yet avoiding these emotions only deepens distance and erodes trust over time. Vulnerability is central to emotional courage. It is the willingness to show your partner who you truly are beneath the surface, to reveal insecurities, desires, and unmet needs that have been hidden behind defense mechanisms. This openness is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of profound strength that creates space for authentic connection. By being vulnerable, you invite your partner to do the same, breaking down walls that may have been standing for years. Confronting the truth also requires the ability to listen without defensiveness. Emotional courage is not just about expressing your own feelings, it is about hearing and understanding your partner's perspective, even when it is uncomfortable or challenges your assumptions. This kind of listening fosters empathy, builds trust, and allows both partners to move towards solutions rather than dwelling in blame. Additionally, emotional courage involves perseverance. Growth in a marriage does not happen overnight, and facing the raw truths often reveals layers of unresolved issues, patterns, and misunderstandings that need consistent attention. It requires commitment to the process, a willingness to repeat difficult conversations when necessary, and the determination to keep striving for connection even when progress feels slow. Courage also intersects with accountability. Being willing to own your actions and the impact they have on the relationship demonstrates respect for your partner and for the bond you share. It signals that you are invested in creating a healthier, more fulfilling partnership. Couples who embrace emotional courage learn that pain and conflict are not enemies of love, but opportunities to deepen intimacy, strengthen understanding, and build resilience together. By confronting reality rather than avoiding it, they transform challenges into pathways for growth, and in doing so, they cultivate a relationship that is grounded in honesty, trust, and mutual support, capable of withstanding the trials that life inevitably presents. Fighting for a marriage is never just about surviving difficult moments. It is about creating a partnership that elevates both individuals and nurtures a shared vision for the future. Many couples approach challenges with a mindset focused on avoidance or mere compromise, but the true power of a thriving partnership lies in intentional effort, aligned values, and mutual growth. A marriage worth fighting for is one in which both partners actively seek to uplift each other, supporting personal dreams while cultivating shared goals that strengthen the bond. This vision requires seeing beyond temporary setbacks and disagreements to the larger picture of what the relationship can become when nurtured with intention. Passion, intimacy, and joy are not accidental. They are cultivated through consistent communication, appreciation, and the willingness to prioritize the connection, even when life feels overwhelming. When couples embrace this perspective, they begin to view challenges not as obstacles to drive them apart, but as opportunities to deepen understanding, build resilience, and create intimacy that is unshakable. A thriving partnership is also rooted in reciprocity. Both partners contribute to the health of the relationship, balancing giving and receiving in ways that reinforce trust, respect, and emotional safety. It is not about keeping score, but about fostering an environment where each person feels valued, supported, and inspired to grow. This requires clarity of purpose, the courage to have difficult conversations, and the commitment to take consistent action toward shared goals. The act of fighting for a marriage also involves envisioning the legacy of the relationship. Couples who invest in their bond consider the long-term impact of their love on themselves, their families, and the broader community. They recognize that a marriage built on mutual respect, growth, and passion becomes a source of inspiration and stability, not only for the partners but for everyone around them. This vision transforms routine interactions into meaningful moments, infusing daily life with intentionality and care. Additionally, it requires embracing change, both personal and relational, understanding that growth often demands adaptation, compromise, and the courage to let go of outdated patterns that no longer serve the partnership. By fighting for a marriage with this perspective, couples create a dynamic in which both individuals feel seen, supported, and empowered, and where love becomes a force for transformation rather than simply a state of comfort. Ultimately, the vision of a thriving partnership is about more than survival. It is about co-creating a life together that inspires, challenges, and fulfills both partners in ways that extend far beyond the immediate challenges they face, cultivating a bond that is resilient, passionate, and deeply meaningful, capable of sustaining joy, intimacy, and growth over a lifetime.